Good morning, Ms. Cort, for Psychologist. Thanks for spending some time with us. I know it's pretty early on the morning of the 5th of April. And as we're having some coffee, we just want to talk a little bit about your work ever since you've been here last July to now. But more specifically, in terms of concerns raised by members of the press. For the last 3 to 4 months, in terms of how you've been going about with your work. And can you first off say, give an approximation of how many of the policemen and women that you've had a chance to be able to sit with and do some psychoanalysis with?
I have approximately across the region dealt with 80 members of the Guyana Police Force thus far. Out of that amount, like I said, it's across the region, and there are some persons that were cleared for work, and there were some persons that were sent on break. I'm not allowed to say who these persons are, what region that they came from, or which location they were working at. But I can say the reason for the break is for me to identify whether the causes of the mental changes and also physical changes is having an impact on them when they're at work or at home. So if these clients, I do not say patients, are coming to me from home, I can identify correctly that it's the home setting. But if I have an officer that's going to work from home and probably socializing elsewhere, but take note that most of the time is spent between home and work. If police come to me for an interview or refer, because some of them come voluntarily, I have to be very vigilant. So not only that am I asking a series of questions to develop a diagnosis or testing, I have to pay attention to what this person is looking like, whether the weight fluctuated from the time I've seen them now to the time they came back, whether they have bodily injuries and why were they caused. So because of that, if these wounds or the weight loss was inflicted by the person and they deliberately decided to change the way they eat because of some reason, then this person would have to go on a break, because only then I can identify where it's coming from. And sometimes your environment contribute to this. So I would need that person, he or she, to be away from work for an amount of time. That's number one. And the other reason is I do not want this activity to not only enter social media, but to cause hindrance at their workplace with other officers, with other persons that they're working with, even so with members of the public.
Do you find that sometimes there's resistance by some of those members of the Guyana Police Force who, in the cases where they're sent to actually come forward, or there's difficulty for them to be able to open up for you to be able to do what you have to do within what you would consider as a reasonable time?
As a matter of fact, yes. Most of the police that are referred, they come with restraint. So when I say restraint, again, body language, if I'm sitting like this, it simply means, okay, I'm not going to say anything. You can try all you want. So then you have to create what we call building a rapport. You have to create this atmosphere where the person feels comfortable. He or she is not here because something is wrong. Because most of the time when persons are sent off, okay, something is wrong, I did something wrong. So in that environment that you are to create is to allow them to express themselves. All right, and sometimes it starts with, oh, Miss Cort, nothing is wrong with me, but I didn't say anything is wrong with you. You're not here because something is wrong with you. So when we create that rapport with that person, they open up, and then you do not say that something is wrong. The term that I use, that you're having difficulties in this area. All right, because we already know how it is with mental health in Guyana. And because of the fact that police are every day facing challenges at work, it's hard for you to come, let's just say, independently and say, I need help in this area. or I'm struggling in this area, most of us would prefer to go through an act pretending as though everything is okay until somebody that's paying attention to you sees a change in your behavior that has become a pattern that could say, this is not how Ms. Cort used to operate. I think something is wrong here. Maybe we should do this, or maybe we should do that. And of course, such person would refer these police to me. So it's not the case where they come and they are willingly open to talk about stuff. And I think one of the reasons why that is so is because, of course, in the force there is zero confidentiality. And oftentimes police would ask the question, "Ma'am, are you a police?" And this is before they start to share information. They want to know that, hey, okay, this person's not a police. No higher rank can come and say, okay, what is this person there for? Tell me, or else I'll have you demoted or sent away in a different location, or whatever the case may be. So they ask that question, are you a police? And when I say no, then is when they're more relaxed, the handful would drop, and the conversation would begin there.
When you are working with a client, as you
Yes.
rightly said, it's the term that you use, and that is particularly referred from the Forces Administration. Do you give the Forces Administration a timeline within which you will complete your analysis and make your recommendations?
Yes.
Or that is dependent on how you work with that client?
So for the interview, I would give them a timeline, okay? And in the interview, it's basic stuff. It's more of me listening to what this person has to say, and it includes everything. Sometimes it's social life, sometimes it's work, sometimes it's personal. I'm just here to take in information. And then I would ask a series of questions, and of course, I'll be making small notes, which of course I ask permission to from that client. All right, and based on what they're saying, I would ask questions relating to that. So the overall view, I would relate to the administrative. Nothing that says this person is suffering from, this person needs, nothing in that interview. When I'm giving this overall conclusion on this person based on the interview, nothing there is saying that he or she is not fit for work or whatever. It's basically saying, I've conducted an interview, and now the second process is going to start where I do X, Y, Z. I cannot give a timeline as to when this is going to end, because it's different with each person. And why I say this is because just as you get ill and you go to the hospital, the doctors would ask you a series of questions, and they would ask you, does this hurt? Does your head pain at this time? Is your stomach this? Whatever the questions are. And this is just to narrow down on exactly what the problem is. And then again, because of these series of questioning, and now they've come to a diagnosis, they would run a series of testing to make sure that, hey, this is exactly what is happening with this person. Thereafter, they would give or prescribe medication based on that. So it's not just you coming and say, oh, I think I'm having a heart attack, and then the doctors would run and bring medication, giving you, this is what we use for heart attack. Use this 3 times a day, you're going to be well. No, it's not based on what you say. All right, we take that information, don't disregard it. So it's the same process when you're doing a psychosocial analysis, or you want to clearly understand what's happening in this person's mind. And it's a little more difficult because we're not talking about the physical aspect of the person, we're talking about the mind. So, yeah.
And Ms. Cort, given what you just mentioned, when you get to that stage, you did say that you will not disclose to the administration about whether the person is fit for work or anything. Do you recommend treatment for a person in order for them to be able to be well in mind again?
Okay, so thank you for asking that question. Very good question, by the way. There's a difference between therapists, counselors, psychologists, and psychiatrists. I'm not a psychiatrist, so I cannot give medication. A psychiatrist would have to do that. However, based on my findings, let's just say this person has severe depression. And when you have severe depression, it can lead to suicidal tendencies, and then eventually you could commit suicide. But before we get to that stage, If this is recognized, then this person can be sent to a psychiatrist that is going to prescribe antidepressant medications. So that part I do not do, I cannot do, I'm not qualified to do that.
But you would make the referrals?
Yes,
if needs be.
of course. As a matter of fact, anything that's out of my field, they have to see a psychiatrist. And another thing that I do is when these persons come to me, I would ask them to go to a medical doctor just to make sure everything is okay, because sometimes they're on medication and the medication is causing some sort of side effect. So that also I need to know. So I ask if they're on medication for anything, just as though you would go to the hospital. They're asking you, are you on medication for whatever treatment, for whatever stuff you're dealing with? It's the same process. If they're on medication, I would like to know what medication they are so I can see the side effects of this and if it have anything to do with the behavior pattern. And also for them to do a medical just to show that they're clear. And then we start to work.
Right, because evidently, from what is implied, is that certain medications that we may use for other, physical illnesses can
Correct.
impact sometimes our mental well-being also.
Correct.
All right. So, going forward, Ms. Cort, finally, I'd just like to ask. You've done a number of these sessions with policemen and women across
Yes.
the region. Is it going to be one-off or is it going to be continuous?
Okay, so it has to go on and it's going to be continuous for a number of reasons. So sometimes you pick up your phone or your tablet or even put on the television and you see something that's happening. It could be that it happened last year, 2 years ago, but because of the fact that you're seeing it now in your mind, oh, this just happened? I didn't see this before, so it got to be that it just happened. And you take whatever information you want out of the video, out of the song, out of whatever is the activity that you're looking or listening to. But this has a backstory that you do not know. All right? And oftentimes, person would give comments on what they see or what they think or what they believe, but that's not always right. Not because this is what I'm seeing, this is my perception. I'm going to just put it out there so other people would know. You may think that you're doing that person justice or good or in favor of them, but you're actually putting that person in the spotlight. You understand? The more comments, the more things you say, now this is not going to go away for a while. And why I say you're not helping, if this person has a medical issue and it's affecting them mentally, if I'm to go on social media platform and read something about me, I know what the incident was, and then I'm reading all of these comments, and in my head, this is not what happened. Why are these people saying this? You're not helping me. You're going to deteriorate what is already being broken down in my head. And then because I'm thinking about this, I have this condition, it's affecting me. All of this is going to tell on my job, on my personal life, my relationship with my family, my relationship with friends. And it's going to add to taking me to a different state of depression. So sometimes we need to be really, really careful about what we're putting out there. If you want to help, think about it just as you would look at it again and again and again. And when you're making comments, think for 1 second, maybe this could be my mom, sister, my brother, my auntie, somebody that's related to me. Only then are you going to leave a comment that you think or you know that's going to help this person in some sort of way. It's going to bring closure because persons responsible are going to answer, but the question itself is going to help this person as an individual.
So the question then begs, why would you think, or why is it that there are persons who feel that if information is put out in the public domain, it is too sketchy and it does not give much details? And why is the posture of therapists and even psychiatrists, and as a matter of fact in the medical field, resistant to publishing a person's condition?
Okay, so let's understand two things. in the medical field, there's not just the biological aspect of a person. There's also the mental state, which Guyana is slowly moving towards recognizing and being okay with it, for lack of a better word. All right? So we're already accustomed to, if something is wrong with me, I can go and take a scan, a test, and then I produce this to work saying, I'm sick with this, I'm taking this medication, and the whole 9 yards. And then, yes, my boss approved, I get 47 days home, and I'm good, I'm covered. After that, I can go back to work. If I relapse, then I go back to this medical physician, and you know you get to leave again. When we're talking about a person's mental state, it's not the same. Psychiatrists, counselor, therapists, psychologists, we're bound by confidentiality clause. We are not allowed to share this information with nobody unless there's a need to know. And the need to know comes from the court. Let's just say there's a case in court and this person is pleading not guilty because of some mental illness. Now you would have to go into records or to that psychologist or therapist to get the evidence that this person has indeed been seeking treatment for 5 years, 10 years, and they're suffering from X, Y, and Z, to clear that person's name. And that's what we term need to know. Nobody else needs to know. Not your mother, not your father, not your boyfriend, not your wife, because they're going to make it worse. And there are persons that would say, oh no, I'm not going to help. You are going to make it worse. And I'll tell you why. You're going to think about the condition as you can control it, but you can't. You have to be qualified, you have to be trained, you have to be exposed to this kind of thing over and over again in order to adapt it, just like any other thing. If it's new to you, it's going to be hard for you to accept it, right? Much less if this person is related to you. They could be your wife or your brother. It's going to be hard. How many persons do you know lovingly would go and adopt a child that's schizophrenic? Or a child that's, let's just say, the term that Guyanese use, not of a sound mind or retarded. Nobody wants to go and adopt a child, and because it requires more of you, and it's not enough. You would go and look for the best child, the one that's the quietest, so I won't have to do a lot of work. So if you have somebody in your family that has a condition, mental condition, it's going to be hard for you to accept. And you might think that you're doing good, then you're going to start acting different. And they don't want you to change. They want you to be you. Don't like fluff it up. You're not making it better. You understand? So we do not put this information out there because the stigma that's attached to mental health. We would go around telling person that he is mad and she is mad. Oh, I know this doctor said X, Y, and Z. Look, it went in the papers. You didn't see it on social media. And we're living in the age of technology. So simply, I can be sharing this information with you, and let's just say somebody downstairs are probably eardropping and they have a phone slid under the door and they're recording everything, and then this information gets out to somewhere it's not supposed to be. So no, we do not do that. And our records, well, my records are on pen and paper and file, and I take it home and I lock it in a drawer. Because just as though I store it on a computer, somebody could hack the computer, get the hard drive, get all this information out. So we do not do that. No.
Thanks very much for that. Nice to know. And as we close, I want you to talk right now to those policemen and women who you have dealt with and will be dealing with in the future, as you continue to give them the assurance of your confidentiality.
Okay. So for members of the force, I'm going to say this again because I've said this before in an interview. If the administrative did not see this necessary, I would not have been here. And scope for other persons like me or even higher would not be there. That's first. So you need to acknowledge my presence, and I'm pleading for the commanders to do their job into sensitizing the ranks that if you need to talk to somebody, there is this person that you can go to, there's this number that you can call, because my number is out there. And also, I want to ask members of the public, this is our country. We're trying to create a one Guyana. And in doing so, the police force as a unit, as an organization, cannot function alone. They need civilians. They need people like me and you. And if we're constantly trying to tarnish the reputation of the force, we're tarnishing ourselves, because we're Guyanese. We're painting a picture to other countries, other nations, to look down on us. Now, we have so many beautiful things here in this country, but because of the fact that Guyanese are painting a picture of the force, it's not reliable, that we can't depend on them and all of that, nobody wants to come here. Everybody wants to know that there's some sort of security set up in case I got robbed, or in case I got something held up or kidnapped. There is relative authorities that's going to step in and try and look for me, or try and find my stuff back so that I can go back to a different country. So we need to do more, just as how we're putting things in social media so that the world can see what's happening behind closed doors, that we call it. Show what's happening on the good part, because there's not always things that are negative. They are good things that's happening in the force, but nobody wants to take the time to publish that, because maybe you don't get as much comments, or maybe you don't get as much likes. But if we're talking about Guyana, we need to do more as a people. And if we're talking about one Guyana, we need to collaborate. All right? So policemen and women get up just like everybody else at a basic time and go to work till the time is finished, I would say, because in my opinion, I don't think they have a 9-to-5 job. That's number one. Number two, they don't have a job that they go to. Let's just say, okay, I'm in this position for 10 years and I choose to resign. No. Within that 10 years that policeman or woman, they have worked in region 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to region 10, and in different positions in which they are required to know what they have to do, and then they're trained. Or sometimes they're trained and then they're put in that position, but they do not stay there. Our job as civilians is to help. I have never seen on Facebook, I don't have Facebook, by the way, there's let's just say a group of people just decide to take codes wrong, take Red Bull wrong, water wrong for police that are standing 12 to 15 hours on the road directing traffic. They're not there because it's a job. They're there because they choose to be there. And I'm going to tell you why I said that. If I'm standing at a position for 12 hours and it is hurting my feet, let's just say I've been doing that for 1 year or 5 months, I have an option to resign, because I do not wish to stand in the sun and in the rain for 12 hours. You do not hear or see police officers constantly resigning. They don't have a threshold that says, okay, within the month of October to December, we've had 900 police resign because of standing on the road. No. As a matter of fact, there is a long waiting list of persons that want to become a police, man or woman. So help us, help you. And that's all I'm pleading for members of the public. I already know that you have a job to do, social media people, everybody. But again, we're talking about one Guyana, and if we're to do this right, so we can put a billboard up there to say, come to Guyana, we have beautiful waterfalls and all of that. We need to do it together. And that's all I have to say.
Well put, and I'd like to say thank you very much for sharing with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.